Hey everybody, it's Dwayne again for our next lesson, which is lesson 9, week 17 and 18, and the lesson this week is inventory, and we'll be continuing to work on this lesson next week as well. I'm feeling just a little bit under the weather, not so spiffy today, so I may not be my traditional self, but hey, I'll do my best, okay? So I'm going to be here and and get this thing done. I may slur a little bit or may kind of mope around or not make any sense from time to time, but I'm not 100% sure that I make any sense, a good bit of the time anyway. So, but anyway, we're on principle 4, step 4 still, and like I told you last time and the time before, we're going to be talking about this inventory for a good while now, which means one thing and one thing only. It's incredibly important, okay? Because we have all these things inside of us, that things that have happened to us years ago and things that have happened to us more recently, things we've done to other people years ago and things we're still doing to people now. And we don't really understand where all that stuff came from, how all that stuff ties together and has made us into who we are. All we know is that we got some pain, we got some hurts, and there's some suffering that we've been through and we're going through, and we may be hurting inside, and we may be using that hurt as an excuse to hurt others, okay? And so doing this inventory is part of the process to get this stuff organized, because it's kind of like, and I'm the worst about doing this myself, okay? You see some people's desk that's got everything in a neat little stack and everything's perfect, or there's nothing on the desk whatsoever, and you wonder if those people are even alive or not. And then you see someone else that has stuff stacked everywhere you can think of, and sometimes they can find things and sometimes they can't find things, but sometimes when we're dealing with life, and especially a life with some trauma in the past and some trauma that we've covered up or whatever, sometimes that desk gets real cluttered, and we not only can we not find things, we may not even want to find things, and we may want to keep them hidden, and we may not even want to look at it. There might be things on your desk that's been there for 15 years on the bottom of a stack, and you haven't looked at it, and you don't have no intention to look at it. You don't want to look at it, but the thing is, we have to look at it, okay? We have to look at it, and so that's what I'm here for tonight, is to talk more about this inventory. Last week, the lesson last week and the lesson the week before, what we did was we talked about basically why we need to do an inventory. And I'm continuing that a little bit right now as to why, because there's a lot of stuff that's unorganized, and there's a lot of stuff that's down there deep inside, all cluttering our lives up, and we need to bring those things back up to the surface, and we need to address them properly so that we can dispose of them properly, okay, and get rid of those things so that we can move on with our lives, things that we've done, things that others have done to us in the past. It's time to be able to bring that stuff up and get it out of us and be done with it. I mean, why would we want someone or something from our past to still be causing us trouble today? That just gives that thing or that person or those people too much power over us. Wouldn't you agree? Someone that's done something to you years ago is still holding power over you. Why would you want them to continue having that power over you? So we're going to go through a process of releasing all that stuff. So anyway, don't forget, if you missed last week's lesson 8, the first week of it and the second week of it, I'd encourage you to go back, because I go into a lot of cool details about the scales in our life and keeping them balanced, and I talk about the elephant in the room that we don't want to address. And tonight we're going to be talking about when we lie to ourselves in an indirect way, because we got all of these things pushed at the bottom of that stack on our desk, so to speak, that we don't want to look at it. So we're lying that it's even there to begin with. And we're going to have to be honest with ourselves about some things. And so that's where we're at. So, we talked about last week the balancing scales and how it related to our lives. And we also talked about why we need this inventory that we're about to really start working on now. We're going to basically lay out the skeleton or the outline, so to speak, of how to do this inventory and what it's going to consist of. And basically to help get rid of some of the chaos in our lives and get rid of some of the pain and the hurts of our past, okay? So basically we're going to drag up some of those painful things in our past, but we're going to do it in a healthy way so we can properly dispose of it in a healthy way. And then we're going to also heal the beginning process of healing some wounds that others have caused and that we've actually caused ourselves in some cases. And then last week, we talked about admitting that we are capable of lying to ourselves, in which, in a sense, we don't want to believe that we lie to ourselves, but we know that we do when we look at it a little closer, because, for example, denial is an example of that. When we're denying that we're doing something, we deny it so many times that we believe that lie ourselves. Another thing is when we justify our bad behavior and actions is another direct example of lying to ourselves. In one way, it helps us sleep at night. If we do something to someone, we justify what we do by we saying they deserved it for this reason, for that reason, for that reason. We come up with all kinds of reasons to say why they deserved it, okay? And so, but we're lying, we're using that to lie to ourselves and to try to get around our conscience, so to speak, okay? People do it all the time, man. It's an amazing thing. You wonder about people that go to jail for killing someone, and then you and that might be you. You might be listening to this message, and I might be hitting home with you that day. But you justified why you did what you did, so to speak. But you're still in your heart, you know it was wrong, and you're suffering for that, and you're going to continue to suffer for it until you bring it back up to the surface and you address it properly. So anyway, we talked about why we needed a sponsor and why we needed to work on building that network of sponsors or friends that we can talk to help hold us up during this process. And we talked about God being our number one sponsor. So we're strengthening our relationship with God, and we're strengthening our relationship with other people as well. So we have people that we can talk to, and get some of these hurtful things out in the open so that we're not necessarily talking to ourselves about them. So anyway, we're going to actually learn this week about this inventory. Ephesians 4:31 says, "Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice." That's a good verse, isn't it? That's a good verse. Why not? So in Participants Guide number 2, which is this one right here, there's some worksheets about your inventory, but if you don't have one of these, you can get them on eBay, or you can get them through Celebrate Recovery and probably a number of other places, or you can go to a church if they're still having a Celebrate Recovery program there, or some other organization that has a Celebrate Recovery in the community that you live in. There's some worksheets in here, but I'm also going to teach you how to do your inventory without this. But it's always better to have this if you want to get it. I encourage it. So basically what we're going to do here is you're going to get a notebook. You're going to get your notebook. You're going to make an appointment with yourself where you don't have a bunch of youngins running around that's going to interfere with you and distract your thought process. You want some quiet time for just you and yourself. And I know that sometimes quiet time isn't easy for certain personalities because you don't really want to think about things. You try to stay busy, And that's one way that you put some things down in the bottom stack, so to speak, on your desk, and you don't want to look at them. And you stay busy. You stay so busy that you don't want to think about certain things. But we're going to have to slow down. You're going to have to take an appointment with yourself, make an appointment with yourself. You're going to have to make regular appointments with God, as far as yourself, make an appointment with you with God, because God's going to be listening when you pray and when you talk to Him. So you're going to have to do that. So anyway, what we're going to do, and there's two ways to do this, okay, because some of you may have a lot of things to write down. So one way to do it is you're going to take a sheet of paper, probably sideways, landscape-wise, as they say, and you're going to divide it into 5 columns. At the top of each one of these columns, you're going to write a different heading, and below that, you're going to write down some things, okay? The first column that you're going to write is you're going to say the person. The second column is going to be the cause. The third column is going to be the effect. The fourth column is going to be the damage. And the fifth column is going to be my part, okay? Now, the other way you can do this is you can get 5 sheets of paper. And this is what I recommend to you, okay? This is what I recommend, especially those of you that have a long past and a lot of hurts that are affecting you. On that first page, you're going to write at the top, you're going to write the person, okay? The second one, you're going to write the cause. The third one, you're going to write the effect. And the fourth one, you're going to write the damage that was caused. And the fifth one, you're going to write my part, okay? My part. That's going to be the one. So, in times in the past when I've actually talked to you about looking at your light, looking at yourself and shining that light on yourself, which is basically what we're doing, we're having to look a little differently this time to be able to pull up some of those things in the past and actually look at some of the different things that caused you to be where you are today, okay? So 4 of those things are going to be about things that happened to you. And the 5th things are going to be basically about you. So this week's lesson, we're going to talk about 4 of those things, and we're going to get into the 5th thing and some Bible verses next week, okay? This week we're going to talk about 4 of those things because it's really hard to separate those 4. It's easier to separate the 5th. So the first thing is, the first column or the first page, we're going to write the person, the things, or the institution or organization that harmed you in the past. It may be more than one person. Write their name down, okay? And do it in the same order that you're going to put on the next page when you start writing the cause and the effect, okay? Because you want to have, like, if you got John Doe here, on the next page you want to write the cause and then the effect. All that's related to John Doe, okay? If some particular institution caused you harm, you want to make sure you got all of those things lined up. Number 2 on the next page, number 2 on the next page, as far as the cause, effect, the damage, and my part, and so on. So, alright. So first of all, on the person. List the people or the persons or the things that hurt you. Now pay attention to this, because there's several things here I want you to look at that are dealing with emotions that may help point you in the right direction. So you got to think about this. A person that you resent, write their name down. A person that you fear, write their name down. A person that you are angry with, write their name down. And maybe even a person that you hate. Some of you don't have any hate in your heart, but there may be a person that you hate, that you despise, that you think is despicable, that makes you want to vomit every time you see them. Write that person's name down. I know it may be hard to do that, but write that person's name down. Sometimes all of those things might be the same person. Sometimes you've got different people that's going to be on your list, okay, in your column. So, and I've got, the good news is, as you work out principle 4 and you get closer to God and closer to Jesus, some of those emotions and things are going to naturally go away anyway. It's going to kind of clean some of that stuff off your plate, so to speak. You may have to work on this, hard. But the big thing is write it down in an organized fashion so that you have it there and it's not all jumbled up, okay? Alright, the second column or the second page, write the cause, okay? And this is the specific things that the person, people, or organization have done to you, okay? The specific things. Write them down. Make a list. It may be one thing. It may be 5 things. It may be 10 things, okay? Alright, and then list the things that cause that resentment, the fear, the anger, or the hatred in your heart. And you may have to make you an itemized list there beside each one of those emotions about specific things that cause those emotions in your heart, okay? Because those are all negative emotions, and those are things that hurt you and hold you back, okay? So these are things that we're going to have to work through. And you may get some newfound anger and hatred that you haven't felt many years, because you're pulling all this stuff back up, You're taking the page on the bottom of that stack on your desk and you're bringing it back and putting it on the top, and you're actually reading it again. So you haven't thought about it in many years possibly. So some of these emotions are still down there and causing you problems, and maybe they're partly why you blow up on people from time to time or whatever, because you've got all this stuff pumped down inside of you. We got to get it back out again, and we got to dispose of it properly and heal. Isaiah 41:10 says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed. I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my victorious right hand." Alright, now the third column, or the third sheet, is going to be the effect, okay, with an E, effect. And here is where you list as closely as possible how that hurtful action affected your life, not only back then, but you may have to think about this a little bit, but it may even be affecting you now, and probably is affecting you now, and you're not even acknowledging it. So you need to write that down. How it affected you then, how it's affecting it now. And let me tell you, if you come to the conclusion after a lot of thought and prayer that it's affecting you now, then you can guarantee it's going to affect you in the future. So why not work on cutting it off now and healing from that? And that's what we're going to do, okay? Alright, the third column. We've already done that. I told you I was going to trip up, okay? So anyway, we've already done the third column. So now the fourth column is the actual damage itself, okay? So you got the effect of what's been going on, but now there's the damage. And this is where you list out specific areas where you were injured. And when I say injured, there's different ways a person can be injured that can hurt them, affect relationships, and even cripple them, okay? One of those things is injured your social life, alright? This is where you lost relationships, you lost friendships, you lost, there's been gossip that's been hurtful. There's been slander even, where people are just outright philanderous liars about you. And that thing has got back to you and it's hurt you in various ways, mainly your heart first, but in other ways we're about to talk about. So another way you can be injured is structurally. And what I mean by structurally is if you've been, let's just say you've been left, someone that you loved, or someone that was supposed to be there with you, for the rest of your life, or to be there with you when you were a child and was never there, and you've been abandoned. And so structurally, when I say structurally, I mean you have maybe some abandonment issues where you unjustly take your past and you don't want to have any more relationships with anyone or get close to them out of fear of them leaving you too and breaking your heart as well. Okay, so that's what I mean by structurally. A third thing is trust. Trust is something that once lost, and once lost multiple times, is something hard to get back. Okay, particularly if you not only was betrayed, but then if there were just incredible, slanderous things done about you. And people will do that when they have a guilty conscience. They will just go to unimaginable lengths to hurt you, slander you, and make you look bad in front of all of your peers, so that they look better, so to speak. A guilty conscience turns into an animal sometimes, a wild, ferocious animal. And it's a type of denial and basically covering up your own problems or issues or sin, so to speak. Fourth thing is security. You can be injured, your security can be injured. And what I mean by security is basically property loss or financial loss, but also not just that, but destabilizing or demoralizing mental abuse, physical safety, someone that makes you feel worthless all the time because of what they say to you. Even if it's small insults, they keep pecking on you over time. But they can be from small insults that just are continuous and pecking on you all the time to get to quite lavish, demoralizing behaviors, abusive type behaviors to pretty much undermine you and undermine everything about you. And the reason I put this in the security factor is because of the financial and the property loss, so to speak. Because if someone demoralizes you, you pretty much lose a part of your soul, and you're not as productive as you once was, so to speak. So the fifth thing here I want to tell you about, as far as where a person can be injured is sexually. And sexual abuse definitely can affect future relationships. Someone that's been raped once or twice, someone that was molested when they were a child. I've been in a position many times. People can talk to me, and women have been able to talk to me over the years, and I've heard so many stories about abuse, and it's really sickening. But a lot of these women, they'll go through, and men too. I've talked to some guys that were abused by grown women when they were children, and they went through multiple, relationships with women over the years. And some of them older women. Some of them just a lot of women. And so, it doesn't just affect little girls. This thing affects little boys as well. So anyway, those are 5 things, and basic things in your life where you were injured. And you may come up with some other thing to put on your list. Those are just some examples, and probably covered a good many of the bases, but there's probably more bases. So I want you to look at those things. Now, Ezekiel 34:16 says, I will look for those who are lost. And this is where you got to go back to God here. God is your number one sponsor here, okay? And God will help you through this. And you need some sponsors. That's why I'm telling you. The Bible has a lot of verses where it's indicating that you need some other people in your life to help hone you and sharpen you and make you stronger. 2 is better than 1. 3 is better than 2, so to speak. People that you trust, people that will care about you and care about what you're saying, and granted, people have busy lives, but if you get into church and if you really give it a chance, And if you seek out some relationships and not just go for an hour, but go to Sunday school and try to make friends and make relationships, you're going to find some people that will fit in that category. And just because we're talking about the human race here, and everybody is different and made up different and was raised different, and some people just basically don't want to talk to begin with. You know, you may not find the first person you talk to may not be that person, may not be that sponsor. And we've already had a class about sponsors and accountability partners, so I'm not going to get real deep into that. But all I'm going to say is that if you skip that, I want you to go back and listen to that lesson about accountability partners and sponsors. You know, that's what the class calls them. I just call them a friend that supports you as far as a sponsor, and an accountability partner is someone that encourages you to come to church functions, come to your Celebrate Recovery meetings, and make you accountable for not getting slack in those departments. Okay. Now, again, before next week, if you don't have one of these, I would recommend that you get this participants guide too. That's where we're at, because there's some worksheets in here that helps you with your inventory. Get you that notebook I was telling you about. If you want to do the columns, that's fine. But if you know everything doesn't fit on one column, then you just move on and get you do it each thing on each page instead of doing it by columns. I mean, I'm not that good of a writer myself as far as my penmanship, so to speak, but it seems to me that it would work better if I just did each thing on one sheet, so I'd have 5 sheets total. Now I'm going to end this now, but before I do, I want to mention this prayer of serenity. I would highly recommend that you look this up on the internet and you print it out. And it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying every moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that you'll make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. And this is a good thing to read every week. It wouldn't hurt you to read it every day, honestly. Pin it up beside your mirror in your bathroom. Look at it every morning. And, so we basically went through 4 of those 5 columns. And I'm going to end this now. I'm going to end it. And I'm going to tell you, I'm praying for you. And I support you 100% in this inventory process. And look, friend, I wouldn't be here spending my time every week if I didn't truly think that this program could help you. I've seen what it has done in other people's life. And I have seen what it has done in my life in a big degree too. And it has honed my skills with Scripture and the Bible and God's plan for me, and I know it can do the same for you as well. And so I strongly encourage you, don't take what I say lightly. Don't think I'm up here to waste my time. I'm here because I believe in this program. I'm here because I believe in God, and I believe in these scriptures, and I believe in this process. And because I believe it can radically change your life if you've got a lot of hang-ups, hurts, and habits. I believe it can radically change your life and make your life better and make everyone's life around you better. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm going to stay here, God willing, okay? And I love y'all. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week.